Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to Financial Lovemaking. This is where we talk about ways to use money as a method for strengthening your relationships as opposed to using them as a weapon to destroy your relationships. And I'm here with my good buddy, Miss S. Tia Brown out of New York City. How are you doing today, Tia?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm happy. It is a good day. It's bright and shiny here in Chicago, so life is good. Life is good. You know, I was talking to you about a financial lovemaking topic that hit the public eye recently with actor Columbus Short, who apparently, unfortunately, poor guy, whatever's going on in his life needs to stop happening because he seems to be kind of losing it. He was a co-star on one of the biggest shows in America, Scandal, and now he doesn't have that job anymore, and a lot of it is linked to his relationship with his wife, Tannee Short, who's accused him of domestic violence and got a restraining order, and then Columbus hauled off and punched a guy in a bar, and then he goes on the Tom Joyner morning show and actually called Tom Joyner the N-word, and so it seems like things are kind of unraveling for him, and in the midst of all this, they let him go from the show, and then recently there was this video that Columbus released of his wife kind of choking a woman that he brought to the house, and I guess he was using that as evidence to show that his wife was violent. And it just, honestly, it just kind of makes him look silly, makes his wife look silly. And it seems to further degrade and erode everything he's worked for all these years. What is your take on what's kind of been going on?
No, I completely agree. It's really sad when you see hard work kind of all implode at the same time. So, one of the things you were talking about before was how we make investments in different spheres of our life. So, Columbus Short has been a choreographer. His career evolved into acting, and like you said, he landed on this hit show, and he also is a father and a husband, and so he's invested a lot of times in different aspects of his life. So it's sad to see that whatever's going on with him personally kind of having a crumbling impact on all of the other things going on for him. It's disappointing when people choose to allow the hurt that they're experiencing kind of permeate through other things. So when I say that, I mean, okay, if you're stressed in your home environment or your work environment, and now you kind of subject other people and other things to it. So we see, him lashing out on the Tom Joyner show. We see him lashing out and acting in a way that shows that he has difficulty managing his anger when he's interacting with people in public. And then we see him lashing out at his wife. Now, he's been accused of domestic violence. He also decided to, like you said, release this tape to show that he's not the one who is getting physical in the relationship. I found that to be very interesting because when we feel attacked and vilified, we often want to say it's not our fault. It's not me. It's them. So when I saw the video of him showing his wife beating up a woman who he brought to their house to help, I think, remove some of his items, that doesn't make her look like a terrible person. While being physical, of course, is inappropriate, the first thing I thought was you'd rather videotape your wife, your friend, instead of helping this person not be attacked by your significant other, who obviously is having anger management issues as well at the time. So, it's kind of really just a big snowball effect. The other sad thing, that we see, and this is something that I talked about with some of my girlfriends, we see with Black actors, when they kind of reach a certain level of success and they start, as you said, unraveling, all of the professional success that they've accomplished is ripped away. So we have a different level of responsibility for our career because we know, regardless of how diversified Hollywood is becoming, once you are no longer kind of that picture of mainstream success for a Black man or woman, your financial situation changes like that. So not only have you now impacted your home life, you've also basically eradicated everything you worked towards for the last decade. So I think it's sad on many fronts. I mean, purely clinical perspective, obviously domestic violence is not okay. Emotional abuse is not okay for either party. So I would definitely suggest that both parties get the help that they need to be the best people they can be. But from a financial lovemaking perspective, I would say, it's terrible to let your personal situation basically kill everything financially that you worked for the last decade. a decade of hard work down the drain. An opportunity like Scandal doesn't come around all the time. And not to say there won't be other opportunities, but that's just how life is. You only have a few shows that are not only just part of history, but also have the potential to have a long run. And that's one of the things that Scandal has both in its corner. This is a historic show, and it has legs, so it will run for many seasons. And so that means that there's royalty money to come that could sell a lifetime. And he's lost both of those.
Yeah, I think that Columbus Short is in an interesting position where he maybe still has to more deeply understand how your investments in your personal life affect your investments in your professional life. And I don't blame him for not understanding it at the stage that he is in his life. I want to say he's about 30, 31, 32 years old. He's not an old man. I didn't understand that until I got a little older, that who I chose to spend my time with, as far as women, had to somehow sync and correlate properly with what I was doing in my professional life. Because if you make the wrong investment in one area, it can absolutely destroy the other. And it goes in both directions, right? Choosing the wrong career to fit the relationship you're in can destroy your relationship, and choosing the wrong relationship can destroy the career that you're in. I wouldn't say that I don't think it's important to choose sides in terms of what's happening with Columbus and his wife Tannee McCall Short. I've heard both sides. I've heard people who said, that it's clear that he's abusive and he's hauled off and punched other men. He's done things that show that he's a violent person. And then I've heard people say the other extreme, that she's hauled off and choked this other woman and spit in her face, which shows that she wasn't this little quiet victim who was sitting in the kitchen baking cookies and got punched because she didn't bake the cookies right, that maybe they were fighting each other. And this happens a lot. This does happen a lot in a lot of relationships. I don't think domestic violence is I think it's almost never as clear cut as we want to believe that it is. But with that being said,
right,
all that doesn't matter now. What matters is, Columbus, you had one of the greatest opportunities imaginable, and you don't have that anymore. And so either you're screwing up by being a bad person and doing stupid things that are going to hurt you, or hurt your life and your career, or you have chosen the wrong partnerships. To protect your career. For an example I would give is, if you look at some of these other people who have been caught in interesting scandals themselves, not to pun intended, I guess it wasn't intended, but I think it's a good pun. If you look at someone, say, like Reverend Jesse Jackson, who's been caught in scandals where he had the illegitimate baby, or even Bill Cosby and his his scandals that have come up, which included a baby and a bunch of other things that we won't go into. They have partners that stabilize those situations, as opposed to partners that use those situations as opportunities to destroy everything else that they built. Even if you look at the Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton marriage, which most of us believe has been an absolute farce for 40 years, 30 years, however long they've been married, the fact is that they hold it down. They hold it together. They don't let their personal dispute cause the destruction of the other things that they have in their lives that are valuable. Because, let's just be real. What?
This is a very interesting argument that you're posing, that the investment in having a spouse who isn't able to be quiet and a silent partner is really the cause of the issue. And I totally disagree with that.
I'm not saying that your partner has to be silent. I'm saying that whatever kind of person you're choosing to be, you need to make sure you pick a partner that is consistent with that is going to where your personal relationship is going to coalesce smoothly and productively with your professional life. Whatever. I'm not judging.
So,
I'm not saying all husbands or all wives should know how to keep their mouths shut. We're not going into that D.L. Hughley space. D.L. Hughley. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So for me, the investment issue here is definitely you want to make sure you invest in a good partner. But the other investment that you need to make is within yourself, to make sure that as stressful things come up, you were able to deal with them in a productive manner for So that way it benefits all of your other investments. So no, I'm not going to say that if, you want to have a certain type of life, you shouldn't pick a woman. What I am saying is that stress happens and you need to be able to deal with that stress in a positive way. And to me, that's the bigger investment, because really I can't determine whether or not he's a hothead, she's a hothead, if it's just a stressful situation overall versus it being an unhealthy match. And that's what, of course, it's an unhealthy time period, but I don't know if it's an unhealthy match. And that's where my issue comes.
But I think it's definitely an unhealthy match. There is nothing healthy about this match, no matter who's at fault in that marriage. I mean, this match is not a good match.
But sometimes you can go through a bad time, and it doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad situation. Now, if there were prolonged issues of domestic violence, and in no way am I condoning, either situation. But I don't think because we see one person being violent towards other people and another person being violent towards other people, does that mean that they can't possibly have had a healthy relationship at one point? They're not having a healthy relationship right now. And so that's my issue. I don't feel like we should vilify the overall match. Because honestly, it comes across.
What I vilify
because to me, it comes across as saying.
Go ahead.
As you basically saying, you picked a bad woman, and that's why your life is falling apart.
No,
and I can't.
What I will say is that we don't know. We don't know and I wouldn't say it's about picking a bad woman, because we don't need to genderize this. Because if he picked a bad woman, she obviously picked a bad man. They pick bad people. I think that they've picked a bad situation. And also, it's one thing to pick a bad situation, but it's another thing to manage a situation poorly as well. I think that it's probably a combination, right? It's one thing to get into a bad situation and manage it to the best of your ability, and it's another thing to just to just manage the situation poorly and to be in a poor situation, and so you're compounding one bad choice with another and making things just utterly explosive. So again, without sort of collapsing this into some simple conversation, like I had a relative, a relative who was accused of domestic violence, and literally his explanation for what he learned from the situation was, I should have chosen a wife who knew how to keep her mouth shut, or I should have chosen a wife who wasn't going to go to the police. That's what he literally said to me. I don't agree with that. I think that logic is crazy. And to whatever extent that Columbus might be terrorizing his wife, there's no excuse for that. But here's the thing. Their relationship, their marriage is a black box. None of us are in that marriage. None of us really know exactly what's going on. I saw people on one hand who were saying, oh, well, Columbus going off and punching that guy shows that he's a violent person, and it explains why she got the restraining order. But then when the video comes out of her choking a woman and spitting in her face, it's like, oh, well, that doesn't prove anything. That doesn't mean – no, in both cases, if Columbus punching this guy shows that he's violent, then her choking this woman and spitting in her face shows she's violent. So there is violence there. We don't know where it came from. The chicken or the egg. Nobody knows. But here's what we do know. Here's what we do know. Okay. This family was making millions of dollars a year from Columbus being on Scandal, and now somebody else is going to get that money. That's what we know. And that's the outcome you're seeking to avoid. So ultimately, I think anybody watching this, at least me, when I'm watching this, without knowing who's at fault, without knowing exactly what happened, my thought is this. Whatever you choose to do and invest in terms of a relationship, make sure that the situation is not going to mess up everything else you got going on that might be working for you. Like they say, to express it vulgarly, there are people who say you shouldn't shit where you eat. Or if you look at drug dealers don't sell, where they live. Because one investment can cause problems with another. Now, obviously, you shouldn't be trying to raise family and work as a drug dealer at the same time. But if that's the choice you've made, if that's the relation, or if those are the investments you've made in your life, at least manage them in a way where one isn't going to destroy the other. So I think the same thing is true here. You've got two major investments in your life. What you do for a living and who you spend your life with. You got to make sure those two things connect in a productive way. Because if they don't connect in a productive way, if they connect in a destructive way, then you're going to pay on both ends. Columbus Short.
Okay, so
he's now a divorcee. Hold on, I'll finish that point. Columbus Short is now a divorcee, so he's going to be paying millions of dollars in divorce court, and he just lost the biggest job of his life. This dude is struggling, and that's what you want to avoid. Now, I'll let you get the last word.
Okay, so the final word for me is very simple. The most major investment you make is in yourself. So before you worry about work, before you worry about relationships, you have to invest in your own mental health and your physical health. So when you put that first, everything else falls into place. There will be times when you fall short in certain areas, right? So you may be stressed at home, you may be stressed at work. Until you invest in yourself and you love yourself in a healthy way, there's no way you can have happiness in any other sphere of your life. So that's my final word.
And I'll supplement that certainly by saying that part of investing in yourself is A, knowing how to make good choices about what situations you're going to be involved in, and then B, managing those situations to the best of your ability. Because, I can say that it doesn't matter if you're the healthiest, most well-adjusted person in the world. If you put yourself in bad situations, you're probably going to have bad outcomes. There's nothing worse in the world. There's nothing worse in the world than to try to be healthy and well balanced, and you're dealing with an imbalanced person because you've chosen to link your life to somebody who's going to destroy you one way or the other. And I'm not saying that that's Columbus Short's wife. It may be the other way around. Maybe she needs to understand that connecting herself to him was her bad investment. But either way, both of these people are very unhappy, and I think that's what can kind of happen when we're just in these situations that we don't need to be in. And I'm sure everybody's gone through that feeling where they've been in a relationship and said, how in the hell did I get here? Why am I in the middle of all this foolishness right now? This is not who I am. This is not the life I want. Well, you have to hold yourself accountable for that at some level. There was some point where he asked you out on a date and you knew you should have said no, but you said yes, or you didn't properly vet him, or you overlooked something that you should have overlooked, and now your life is a mess. And I think that's the lesson I've learned when I found myself in embarrassing situations, and I think that that's what's universal here. Can I get an amen?
Okay. You get all right.
Well, I will take an all right. I don't need an amen, but our time is up, and I've really enjoyed talking to you today, Tia. Thank you for challenging me with such a great conversation. I appreciate you.
Awesome, and we look forward to hearing you guys' thoughts on this topic. So make sure to write in and let Boyce know that he's wrong.
Oh,
until next time.
Don't get the women attacking me on this, because I am not in any way standing up for this dude Columbus Short. I don't know what's going on with him. I heard his Tom Joyner interview, and I was like, wow, homie, whatever you're doing, you need to stop, because it's messing you up and it's making you look real bad. And whether he likes it or not, he is the most prominent person in that relationship, and the buck is going to kind of stop with him. So I think both of them are kind of making some mistakes here. So let's hope they get it together. But thank you all for checking us out at Financial Lovemaking, and we will see you again soon. Bye-bye.